All right, Shalom. First and foremost, we give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rekakwadash Barakatham. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, the Goel, and a salute and a Shalom to all the Akim that are out delivered, pushing this truth in all sincerity and in truth. This is an ancient manners and customs lesson. This is number 247. The sign of the shoe. I was doing some reading in the book of Ruth. So I'm going to go into this ancient manner and custom. The sign of the shoe. This is Ruth chapter 4 verse 7. It says, now this was the manner in former time in Israel concerning redeeming and concerning changing. For to confirm all things, a man plucked off his shoe and gave it to his neighbor. This was a testimony in Israel. Let's get Ruth chapter 4 verse 7. All right, because Boaz hold on, I believe it's let's see. Hold on. Hold on. Yeah, well, now this was, hold on, well, let's start up. It says, I'll start at verse 1. Then went Boaz up to the gate and set him down there, and behold, the kinsman of whom Boaz spake came by, unto whom he said, Hold, such a one, turn aside and sit down here. And he turned aside and sat down. And he took 10 of the elders of the city and said, Sit ye down here. And they sat down. And he said unto the kinsman, Naomi, that is come again out of the country of Moab, selleth a parcel of land, which was our brother Elimelech's. And I thought to advertise thee, saying, Buy it before the inhabitants, and before the elders of my people. If thou wilt redeem it, redeem it. But if thou wilt not redeem it, then tell me, that I may know. For there is none to redeem it beside thee, and I am after thee. And he said, I will redeem it. Then said Boaz, What day thou buyest the field of the hand of Naomi, thou must also buy. It says thou must buy it also of Ruth the Moabitess, right? Because remember, Ruth's husband, Malon, he died, right? And Malone's brother died also, right? To say the wife of the dead to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance, right? So Malone, no. So Boaz asked a near kinsman to redeem the land, and he was required to marry Ruth, right? That the name of Malone may not be basically done away with, right? And he had to raise up uh, children in the name of Malone, his kinsman. All right. It says here, then Boaz told him, of course, your purchase of the land from Naomi also requires that you marry Ruth, the Moabite widow, that she can have children who will carry on her husband's name and keep the family in the land. That says, and keep the land in the family. It says, and the kinsman said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I mar my own inheritance. Redeem thou my right to thyself, for I cannot redeem it. It says, then I cannot redeem it. The family redeemer replied, because this might endanger my own estate. You redeem the land, I cannot do it. Now this was the manner in former time in Israel concerning redeeming and concerning changing. To confirm all things, a man plucked off his shoe and gave it to his neighbor. This was a testimony in Israel, right? It says, now there was no divine law ordaining this. It was simply an ancient custom. It is not to be confounded with the law in reference to Levirate marriages. In Deuteronomy 25:7. Deuteronomy 25:7. All right, it say, if a man like not to take his brother's wife, then let his brother's wife go up to the gate unto the elders and say, my husband's brother refuseth to raise up unto his brother a name in Israel. He would not perform the duty of my husband's brother. Right? Says it probably originated from the fact that the right to tread the soil belonged only to the owner of it, and hence the transfer of a sandal was very appropriate representation of the transfer of property, right? So in ancient times, right? So in ancient world, a man would pluck off his shoe, right? He would take off his shoe and give it to his neighbor, right? So if he wasn't able to buy land, right, he would take off his shoe and give it to his neighbor, thus transferring the property to his neighbor. It says allusion to this custom is doubtless intended in Psalm 60:8. Over Edom will I cast my shoe, that is, I will transfer it to myself. This was prevalent among the Indians and ancient Germans, and is still said to exist in the East, right? Now, remember, Malone's brother, Chalone, he also died, right? So there was no more of Malone's brothers left, right? So Boaz was, right? So the family redeemer, he couldn't do it. So Boaz was the only one that could do it. Thus, he's following what the law says. If a man like not to take, hold on, well, here it says, if brethren dwell together, and one of them die, and have no child, the wife of the dead shall not marry without unto a stranger. Right? So she can't marry nobody else. Her husband's brother shall go in unto her and take her to him to wife, and perform the duty of an husband's brother unto her. Says, and it shall be that the firstborn which she beareth shall succeed in the name of his brother which is dead, that his name may not be put out of Israel. See? Let's get another one. All right. Sign of marriage. The Goel. I guess that's how you say that. Okay. Let's see. Let's see how you pronounce it.
The other guys say that
Hold on real quick.
That's because we're spending time in the kitchen. At Factor, we make meals.
Goel. Goel.
Okay, so it's okay. Sign of marriage. The Goel. All right. To say, this is Ruth 3:9. Spread therefore thy skirt over thine handmaid, for thou art a near kinsman. All right. It says the expression "spread thy skirt" imports protection, and here it says, and here signifies protection of a conjugal character. Now, what is conjugal? Conjugal. I use okay. Conjugal. Conjugal definition: relating to marriage or relationship of a married couple, or the relationship of a married couple, because they have conjugal visits in prison, right? Where a wife will visit her husband, right? And they will have time alone, right? In a separate room, right? They can have intercourse and all that. It say, when marriages are solemnized among the Jews, the man throws the skirt of his talith or robe over his wife and covers her with, says, and covers her head with it. Goel, kinsman, is literally one who redeems. When a Hebrew was obliged to sell his inheritance on account of poverty, it was the duty of the nearest relative to redeem it from him. Leviticus 25 and 25. Says if thy brethren waxen poor. It says if thy brother be waxen poor and hath sold away some of his possession, and if any of his kin come to redeem it, then shall he redeem that which his brother sold. And if the man have none to redeem it, and himself be able to redeem it, then let him count the years of the sale thereof, and restore the overplus unto the man, over the overplus unto the man to whom he sold it, that he may return unto his possession. Right? So, all right, man. So the nearest kin could take ownership of his brother's of some of his brother's a possession, right? But then when the brother get back on his feet, right, he has to give him back his possession, because it's his. It says, hence the word Goel came to signify kinsman. The Goel also became the recipient of property which had been unjustly kept from a deceased kinsman. Numbers 5 and 6 to 8. All right. It says, hold on. Is that it? Okay, here it is. It says, speak unto the children of Israel when a man or a woman shall commit any sin that men committeth, to do a trespass against Yahweh Bashemal Shah, and that person be guilty. Then they shall confess their sin which they have done, and shall recompense his trespass with the principal thereof, and add unto it a fifth part thereof, and give it unto him whom against, it says, unto him against whom he hath trespassed. It say they must confess their sin and make full restitution for what they have done, adding an additional 20% in returning it to the person who was wronged. Right? It says, but if the man have no kinsman, to recompense the trespass unto. Let the trespass be recompensed unto Yahweh Shema Shai, even to the priest, beside the ram of the atonement, whereby an atonement shall be made for him. Says, but if the person who was wrong is dead, there are no near relatives to whom restitution can be made, the payment belongs to Yahweh Shema Shai. It must be given to the priest. Those who are guilty must also bring a ram as a sacrifice. They will be purified and made right with Yahweh Shema Shai. It says, it was likewise his duty to avenge the blood of his next of kin by seeking the life of the murderer. See? Let's get, hold on. I need Genesis 9 and 6. Genesis 9 and 5 to 6. Says, and if it says, and surely your blood of your lives will I require. At the hand of every beast will I require it. And at the hand of man, and at the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of man. Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. For in the image of Elohim made he man. Numbers 35 and 19. The avenger of blood himself shall slay the murderer when he meeteth him. He shall slay him. Second Samuel 14 and 7. The woman of Tekoa. And behold, the whole family is risen against thine handmaid. And they said, deliver him that smote his brother, that we will, it says, that we may kill him for the life of his brother whom he slew, and we will destroy the hair also. Right? Well, we will destroy the air also, and so that they shall quench my coal which is left, and shall not leave to my husband neither name nor remainder upon the earth. But I'll start up. It says, Now Joab the son of Zeruiah perceived that the king's heart was toward Absalom. And Joab sent to Tekoa, and fetched thence a wise woman, and said unto her, I pray thee, feign thyself to be a mourner, and put on now mourning apparel, and anoint not thyself with oil, but be as a woman that had a long time mourned for the dead, and come to the king, and speak on this manner unto him. So Joab put the words in her mouth, and the woman of Tekoa spake to the king. She fell on her face to the ground, did obeisance, and said, Help, O king. And the king said unto her, What aileth thee? She answered, I am indeed a widow, and mine husband is dead. And thy handmaid had 2 sons, and they strove, it says, and they two strove together Basically, they had a fight in the field, and there was none to to part them. But the one smote the other and slew him. Right? So the brother that killed his brother, he must be destroyed. See? Says some have supposed from the occasion of the Goel with marriage, as in this history of Ruth, that it was his duty to marry the widow of a deceased kinsman. But according to Deuteronomy 25:5, this duty was only obligatory on a brother-in-law, which relation to Ruth was certainly not sustained by Boaz, whatever. Nor is there any evidence that it was sustained by the unnamed kinsman spoken of by Boaz in verse 12. He had this, the kind of says, had this nearer Goel been a brother-in-law, Boaz would not have begun by asking to redeem the property, Ruth chapter 4 verse 4, but would instantly have demanded it. Says have demanded that he should marry the widow. On refusing to do so, he was liable to judicial disgrace. See, because if he refused to do it, right, then the wife of the deceased brother would go up to the elders of the city and say, hey, my husband's brother, he refuses to go in unto me, that I may conceive and bear a son, is my, it says, and bear a son in my husband's name, right? Then the husband's brother would have to come, right? And she would, right? And the deceased, right? And the wife of the deceased would spit in the brother's face. Thus, the judicial disgrace. It says, but in the case of the power, it was not until he redeemed the property of his relative, dying without a son, that he was under obligation to marry the widow. See, so the only time he was obligated is when the property was transferred to him. As Weiner says, the latter was to him the consequence of the former, and not the reverse, as in the case of the Lever brother-in-law. Should he refuse to take possession of the property, he was under no obligation to marry the widow. In so refusing, he incurred no judicial disgrace. Right? So if he couldn't do it, then he wasn't under no obligation to do it. It say because he did not fail to discharge a duty, but only relinquished a right. The law had expressly imposed the duty of marriage on the Lever only, and beyond him, the obligation did not extend. Boaz had no right to redeem the property until the nearer kinsman refused. Right? Right? So Boaz couldn't do anything until the nearest kinsman refused. If he couldn't do it, then Boaz said, okay, I'll do it. See? Boaz had no right to redeem the property until the nearer kinsman refused, and neither he or the other kinsman was under any obligation to do it, but having once assumed the redemption, the one thus exercising his right was by the act under obligation to marry the widow. See? All right, man. So that was the yeah. So that was this was two ancient manners and customs. Sign of marriage, right? And the expression "spread thy skirt," see, was a sign of marriage. See, and the Goel, the kinsman. So, and also the sign of the shoe was a transference of property. So with that, I say shalom.